Hey Hanz family, and welcome to another day of HANZOWEEN. HANZOWEEN is 31 tutorials in the month of October, so that means a new tutorial every single day. Today's tutorial is a Demented stuffed animal. All product details will be listed down below, including my codes and links and everything else, and let's get to the tutorial. First things first, these are not hickeys, this is just makeup left on from the look before. I'm going to just be taking yellow and white paint from Mehron makeup mixed together and stippling this all over my face. I want to leave open the spots like the mouth and the ripped neck so that I could add in paint to those later. For a little more texture, I am using a little bit of white paint and I am roughly stippling this on just over a few little spots, mainly the high points of the body and face. With black paint, just draw where you do want your decapitated head to be, and the black is going to be the illusion where it's completely ripped off. I wanted to make the shoulders look a little smaller too, so I am just using the black paint to give the illusion that my shoulders are smaller, and then giving the illusion that one of my little arms is ripped off as well. Do these in very jagged patterns so they actually look ripped off. Since I'm doing teeth, I gotta chug my coffee real quick right now. Get as much coffee as I can going. I want to use a pencil just to kind of draw out where I am going to have the gums and nose, just to give myself a little bit of a guideline, and I did decide to make the mouth a little larger. Using white paint from Mehron and the small MAC 210 brush, I am going to draw on the teeth. I want them to be large fangs, and I don't want them to be perfect with each other. Especially towards the back of the jaw, I want them to look like they are almost tangled into each other. Leave a little room on the other side of your mouth just so that we can put our latex there, and start filling in and cleaning up the teeth with a little bit of port and black paint from Mehron mixed together. Focus more of the black towards where your lips are, because that's essentially where the darkest part of the mouth would be, because it's going down your throat. And as we move farther back, add a little more port, which is a wine color, just to lighten it up a little bit. Mehron Makeup's light pink was perfect for the gums, so I'm using that all over the gums and to kind of clean up the curves of the top of the teeth. And then I'm using it around the nose and adding a few more little torn, jagged edges. The forehead needed something going on too, so I am just using some port and I am drawing in a big tear and just filling that in all through around my eye. Since that pale-toned yellowish green base would be kind of hanging over onto the torn spots, we're going to use a little bit of that port body paint and add a little bit of shadow right underneath next to that green, blending into the pink. Do it on the top and bottom gums. To add a bit more color, I am using Sugarpill's Buttercupcake eyeshadow. I'm using a big fluffy brush, and I am just using this to add more texture around the base of my stuffed animal, and especially focusing that towards the torn portions. The torn part of the neck and the kind of shoulders and arms would have a lot of shadow on them because they are torn, so they have all these little jagged edges. Fabric, when it's torn like that, it wrinkles together, so make sure to put a ton there. This is ANASTASIA Beverly Hills Ash Brown, and I'm just going to use this to intensify the shadows that we put down. Basically, when the fabric curves really intensely, that means that there's a shadow inside of that. So when it curves downwards, add a larger shadow going down and blending it back into your base color. Use this to kind of add some more shadow around the tears on the face, around the base of the forehead. And then we're switching gears to orange. This is FLamepoint from Sugarpill, because I just didn't want it to look too pale. I wanted to add a little bit more color, so I felt it could use a little bit of orange. Even though we are going for an aged, demented feel, I still wanted it to have as much kind of color as possible. To break up some more of the color we put down, I am just taking white body paint from Mehron and stippling that on a few spots of the stuffed animal. This too will help because we are going to be putting stuffing on our face anyways, so this will kind of look like stuffing. And then I'm using a little bit of teal as well to, again, like I said earlier, add a bit more color so it's a little more stuffed animal-ish instead of looking like a zombie. For the shading of the teeth, I am going to be using that brown eyeshadow I used earlier. We want to shade the side of the teeth that is moving away from the nose. Since it's curving inwards, we want to shade the outer side. If you notice, I'm not going all the way to the edge because I want these to look dimensional, and having a little bit of highlight on each edge of the tooth and mainly keeping the shadow in the middle will really make that three-dimensional effect. Take a bit of Cherry Cola eyeshadow and I am just going to darken up the gums around the teeth a little bit. We really want the teeth to stand out as much as possible from the rest of the mouth, so taking just a little bit of black body paint and a very thin brush, I'm going to outline the teeth. This will just help so that the teeth don't look flat and kind of blend back into the background of the mouth. Know what I'm saying? Using a bit of that Kryolan Clown white paint, it is cream paint, I've used this in many of my tutorials, I just want to highlight the inside of that tear. Don't go all the way to the edges because the edges would have a shadow cast onto them. And then highlight the little curves of the gums to show that the teeth are popping out of them. And now for the special effects portion, I am using Mehron Makeup's clear liquid latex, it's awesome, and I'm using a brush for this to apply it. Usually I would use a sponge, but a sponge gives a pretty clean application and I want this to be very messy. This is because with this application of liquid latex, I want it to look hairy and messy, almost like our stuffing is coming through our skin. Use some tissue paper, and we are going to start kind of applying the chin and chops that I had. Well, I just had one. But I'm going to lay down liquid latex, and then I'm going to put on a little piece of toilet paper, and I'm just going to have the edges all torn, and I'm going to do the exact same on the top of my mouth as well. Apply liquid latex on top of that, blending it back into your skin, and let that dry for just a moment, and then add another layer. Keep adding layers until you feel that this is pretty much to the height that you want it. We're trying to build up a little bit of a curve. So as you add layers, start putting on smaller pieces so that it starts to kind of naturally build a little bit of a curve to a top. Using toilet paper like this and not letting it completely dry will make it a really gross texture. It will not be a clean application, which is fine because that's what we're going for. Toilet paper is kind of gross and piecey, especially with latex. So when we get the height that we're okay with, I'm going to apply one more layer of toilet paper, and then I'm going to apply a decent amount of liquid latex and use my brush to really pull around the tissue paper so it gets this really gross, grimy, hairy texture. Do the same thing pretty much all around where you have the little openings of the mouth and the tear in the forehead. Apply liquid latex, and you can see that patting it on like that makes it have this very piecey texture, and then apply toilet paper, apply more latex, apply toilet paper until you're pretty happy with how much you have going on. The more toilet paper that you do build up on there, kind of the bigger that it's going to be, so you can play with it and figure out how big or small you want the torn pieces. You want to set this so that it won't fold in on itself, so I'm just using Ben Nye's banana powder because it has a little bit of a yellow tint to it, and then I am pulling this up from my skin, kind of ripping it as I go if I want to. When you do pull it up a little bit, kind of try to move it around as much as you can so that you can kind of have these very torn, frayed edges so it doesn't look just perfect. Since underneath our little fabric flaps, our little skin, we would have lots of shadow, I just want to add in black and port paint mixed together to go right underneath where those flaps would be coming down onto our open, exposed skin. I almost forgot my little wolf nose, so I'm just going to fill that in really quick with some body paint. And then using the Makeup Forever Flash palette, these are all kind of grease paints, I'm going to mix red and yellow together to get this kind of aged orange color, and I am going to stipple that all over the latex pieces that are pulling up. I'm kind of switching between this and some black eyeshadow just so that I can keep adding texture and shadow, especially to my little latex chops I got going on. We want shadow and texture to be everywhere. This is not a cute look. We want this to look grimy as possible. Since it's still a little button nose, we want to add a little bit of highlights using the cream paint to add on the main highlight and then a little bit of white body paint to add on the small, tinier little highlights. For a base of the eye, I'm just using the black grease paint from the Makeup Forever Flash palette, and I'm just putting that all over my eye, and then I'll be covering it in eyeshadow as well. This is Sugarpill's Bulletproof Eyeshadow, and I'm doing this to both eyes, and then I'm using a small brush to kind of just pull the product back and forth so it looks like I have these little black veiny spots and it looks really grungy. Keep layering on the black until it's super dark. Now for stuffing. I'm going to add on liquid latex underneath those little flaps and then put the stuffing right onto it. If you're wearing this look out, I would suggest using spirit gum so that that stuffing stays in place for sure. With the stuffing, I am kind of grabbing it and molding it together just so that it all sticks together, and then I'm putting it on top of the liquid latex. Pulling it a little bit too, just so that it kind of looks fluffier. I didn't want too much stuffing, so I'm focusing this more on some of the little torn spots, but I'm not putting it absolutely everywhere. I don't want to look like a fluffy wolf snowman. Give me 1 second while I pop in my contact. And then, like always, I am going to just kind of do some finishing touches. I want to darken up a few spots, darken up a few little wrinkles. And that, you guys, is the final product. I've been so excited to show you this look. I love it so much. It's so much fun. If you do recreate this, please use the hashtag HANZOWEEN so I can see. I want you guys to recreate these. That's what these are here for. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will just see you guys tomorrow.